Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports, and today we're coming at you with the AP Top 25 College Basketball Poll for Week 6 of this crazy college basketball season. There's been so many teams that have went up, dropped down in the rankings, and there's a lot to talk about in this week, specifically starting here with others receiving votes. We see the Wisconsin Badgers with 156, UNC Tar Heels, 85 votes as well. So you see Wisconsin just barely on the outside here of Texas Tech, UNC a little bit further down. And then a couple other teams I do want to talk about. Illinois with 31. Kofi Cockburn having a pretty good individual season, but the team as a whole definitely is missing Iowa DeSumo this year. Also missing Adam Miller, who did transfer out and then ultimately did tear his ACL. Then looking here as well, Loyola Chicago, 20. That's awesome to see. They've been a team in the past that we've seen be a Cinderella team in the NCAA March Madness bracket, and now they're getting some love here in the actual AP Top 25. And then St. Bonaventure, they started out very high. I was very critical of this team, down to only 6 votes to be in the AP Top 25. This is more so where I expected them. I think they're a good team. I think they can make some noise when it comes to the actual tourney, but as of right now, I just don't see them as a top 25 team, especially when you look at the construction of that roster. Now going into 25 to 21, we got Texas Tech here. Arkansas at 24 after suffering a loss this past week. Colorado State, Xavier in the Big East, and then Kentucky drops 11 spots after a tumultuous week there for that program in John Calipari. And I think it's really fitting with what we see here 25 to 21. Specifically, Kentucky is the team I want to talk about because I think they're the headline team here. A lot of people are going to draw their eyes to the Kentucky Wildcats, and dropping 11 spots is a big deal for them. Of course, they just haven't had the years that you'd expect from them the last couple. I think Calipari's gotten a little rusty with some of his recruiting, especially when it comes to landing that big-time superstar player, the guy to build around. They haven't had that for a little bit now, and I think that's really coming to fruition here. Ty Washington's a nice player for them in that backcourt, but when they really need a basket, I don't know if they have a guy that they consistently go to, and I'm also questioning how much he can put them in positions to really win big games down the stretch. Now, I know he's an all-time legend coach in the college realm, but at the same time, I've got questions because of recent performance. He just hasn't been the same coach the last couple of years. They had BJ Boston, a guy who had all the talents in the world, and he couldn't get it done with him. And of course, now this year struggling a little bit as well after a very, very tough week. Connecticut, here, UConn at 20. LSU jumps up 6 spots, finding themselves now in the top 20 at number 19. Tennessee at 18. Texas drops down 10 spots as well in the Big 12, down to 17. And then Seton Hall finds themselves at 16. Big East is very, very strong. We have 2 more Big East teams here from 20 to 16. We had Xavier at 22. I talked about this near the beginning of the college basketball season. The Big East is so talented for college basketball. It's very awesome to see. And then I really want to draw our eyes here to LSU because what Will Wade's doing with that program right now is very surprising to me. He lost his big-time transfer, Adam Miller, to an ACL tear, and I thought, maybe that probably spells disaster for this LSU program. It has not. They are now 9-0. Now, I know that their quality of competition hasn't been as high as some of these other teams, which is why they're down at 19. But I see them as a team that's going to continue to grow. They're playing together. Will Wade's got these guys playing well. And it's pretty surprising to me because I've been pretty critical of Will Wade as a coach in the past. But this year, he is coming out and having great games for his LSU Tigers. Texas, another team I want to highlight here at 17. I thought they had a phenomenal offseason for college basketball, bringing in 2 transfers at the guard position, Devin Askew and also Marcus Carr, 2 guys who I thought would complement each other very, very well in the backcourt. However, it hasn't spelled success to the level I thought it could be. They came in as a top 5 ranked team in college basketball, now find themselves at 17. I think they're going to have to really do some soul searching to find a way to move back up because they are a team that's more talented than 17th. In my opinion, they're a more talented roster than Seton Hall. They're a more talented roster than a lot of the teams above them. I think that they just have to figure out who they really are. Of course, they have their new coaching situation after losing Shaka Smart. They have some stuff to figure out there in Texas, but I like what they have on that roster. I like what their program has been as a whole in recent years. In Texas, I think they'll get back on the right track at some point soon. 15 to 11 here now. We got an interesting collection of teams here. Ohio State, the Buckeyes, just keep winning, jump up 6 spots themselves. Houston finds themselves sticking strong at 14. They did suffer a loss this past week. However, it did not move down in the rankings. Auburn, 13th now as well, move up 5 spots up to 8-1, led by freshman Jabari Smith, 6'10" forward who can shoot the ball, can handle it. can get downhill as well. He's a top 5 NBA draft prospect. So if you guys are interested in the NBA draft, Jabari Smith is a name you guys have to be keeping your eyes on. Michigan State, coached by Tom Izzo, up 7 spots as well in the Big Ten, 9-2 now at this point of the season. And then the Iowa State Cyclones from the Big 12 have really taken a hold of that conference in some ways. Now that find themselves ranked 11th. There's another team in the Big 12, I know that's for sure ahead of them here on this list in Kansas. But Iowa State, they've become a seriously great basketball program. They've produced some NBA level players in Taylor Horton Tucker. Also look at Tyrese Halliburton, for example. The Cyclones have produced a lot of good basketball players. And right now they are clicking on all cylinders as well, find themselves ranked 11th in this AP Top 25. I'd love to know from this 15 to 11 rank, what team do you guys find most interesting? For me, as someone who really loves the NBA draft, Auburn's the one I'm going to keep my eyes on closest because of Jabari Smith. However, Michigan State, Iowa State, they've been good programs, and Ohio State kind of reascending again. It's nice to see them back up here. Remember the days back when they had like Aaron Kraft and they were kind of rolling throughout college basketball. Awesome to see Ohio State back into the top 15. Moving up now, we've got 10 through 6 here. And there's some programs in here that I warned you guys about at the start of the season, specifically USC. I said, this is a team that's going to be ranked, and they're going to be ranked fairly high. The big thing here, they got Isaiah Mobley back, brother of Evan Mobley. USC needed him back this season, and he stepped up in big ways for them. They're in the Pac-12, and they're joined by Arizona, who's at 8 in the Pac-12. Those two programs have been rolling this year. Collectively, they're 19-0, and they are really, really good programs. Isaiah Mobley's ability to pace and space as a big man, step out behind the three-point line, knock it down out of pick and pop situations, very, very good. Villanova did suffer a loss this week when we're talking about that Big East team there. Villanova did get beat down actually by Baylor quite bad. Kansas, they're 8-1. Their one loss came to Dayton on a game-winning jump shot. I'm a Dayton Flyers fan. Dayton did not deserve to win that game. Kansas should be 9-0, honestly, at this point, because Kansas outplayed them most of the way, just couldn't hit jump shots down the stretch of that game. And then we're looking at Alabama here. Ranked 6th in the nation. I tried putting you guys on notice before the start of the season. J.D. Davison is a very good player, very athletic, and he's actually been doing a really good job at that guard position, handing out over 4 assists a game in college basketball. That's fairly productive for someone who I thought, maybe a little raw in the playmaking area. He's been doing a really good job of that this season. They find themselves ranked 6th overall in the nation, representing that SEC conference. Crimson Tide, they've developed themselves as a basketball school as of late. They produce a lot of good NBA players. When we're looking at Kyra Lewis, you're also looking at Colin Sexton, and J.D. Davison probably going to be the next of the bunch there to make the leap to the NBA this next season. Top 5, though, we are loaded. We got Gonzaga here, 5th. They are another great program. They have really, really worked their way up. Mark Few's done a great job with this program in the last decade. You're looking at Gonzaga now 5th overall, which is probably disappointing based off of where they came in. A lot of people saw them as the number 1 team. They have Chet Holmgren. We're able to keep Drew Timme. They do have a lot of talent, and I think that this top 5 is maybe the most open it's been in college basketball for quite some time, especially when you look just at the overall talent of each of these teams. For example, UCLA, Jaime Jaquez, you've also got Peyton Watson, Johnny Juzang. That's 3 really, really talented wings who can put the ball in the hoop. It's tough to replicate that in college basketball. They're in the Pac-12. They are the best team in the Pac-12, and I don't even think it's close. Arizona, USC, both really good programs, but UCLA, the Bruins, just a step above them this season. Then 3, we're looking at Purdue, who actually did just barely win their game yesterday. From the day I'm recording this, they went into overtime and narrowly, very narrowly pulled one out against NC State. Travion Williams had a really good game in that one. Also, you're looking at Jaden Ivey being maybe the next Ja Morant when it comes to NBA draft evaluations. The guy can just jump out of the gym, makes plays on both ends of the floor, and actually has a pretty good playmaking feel as well. He's really the driving force for this team. Now, my one question is, what does their scoring look like off the wing? I think that they are a really good wing player away from being the overall favorites this year. If they had that, I would consider them to be the favorite in the Big Ten and also in the entire nation. However, they are just lacking that one little dynamic score that I think that they could use at this point. Caleb Furst hasn't been playing a ton for them as well at that big man spot. So I've got some questions about what their wings look like specifically, but I do love their point guard in Jaden Ivey. I love what they got at the big man position. They just need a little bit more help on the wing. But this year, I could still see them competing and maybe even winning the chip. They are a really good team. I don't want to be too much of a Debbie Downer on them, but I do have concerns when it comes to bigger matchups. Who's putting the ball in the hole consistently for them off that shooting guard or small forward position? Number 2 here, we got Duke, and talking about a forward who can really put the ball in the hole, Paulo Banchero for them has done that all year long. Of course, they find themselves at 7-1 here in the ACC. One thing I want to point out real quick, not very many ACC teams on this ranking, which is surprising because the ACC has been a powerhouse in the past when it comes to college basketball. And it looks like we're having a changing of the guard here for the conferences a little bit. Duke, of course, still one of those top dogs, though, 7-1 at this point. The Blue Devils, led by Banchero, I think they're going to have a really, really good season all year long, and I think that they could be easily considered one of the favorites to win the national title. And then number 1, Baylor, the reigning champions, took all of the first place votes this week when it came to the number 1 spot in the Big 12. Scott Drew's got his guys playing. I know they had a ton of losses. I was concerned about that. When you're losing Butler, you're losing Davion Mitchell, you also lose Masio Teague. You're losing 3 of your key scorers from last year, and you still come out, you start 9-0, you've beat good teams, you destroyed Villanova. It's impressive what Scott Drew's doing with this program. He deserves a lot of credit there with the way he's coached up these Baylor Bears. They are a phenomenal team, a phenomenal program. I was a little hesitant about them at the start of the year because I thought those losses were going to be a little bit more problematic and emblematic of what this team is going to be. However, so far it has not been. They've gotten great production at every single facet of the game. They defend so well. Their team defense is phenomenal, and they get out and run, and they finish very, very well around the hoop. Their forwards have really stepped up this year in a lot of ways, and I think that the Baylor Bears should be considered the favorites just based off what we've seen. They've beat good teams. They've had very, very competitive games, and they've been able to close the door on close ones as well. Scott Drew's doing a great job there. And I think we're really spoiled too. Looking at this top 5, it's absolutely insane how much talent there is in the top 5. I know I said it was an open top 5, but that's because it's such a good competitive top 5. There's so much talent, so much strength in this top 5 that it's really hard to choose one. The fact that Gonzaga at this point of the year is ranked 5th shows how strong college basketball is right now, especially based off their recruiting class, who they were able to bring in. We are spoiled with college basketball at this point. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the season. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Also subscribe if you're new. It means a lot to us here at Utility Sports, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.